ship beneath you is not a toy. And sailing's not a game.
So why the hell do it?
Bill's character, Mr. Preston, of which you are in desperately short supply.
They came from different places.
And this Ocean Academy isn't recognized as accredited.
It'll be a good thing, Dad.
They sailed for different reasons.
I don't want to be what I was when I left.
There you go.
Anonymous.
But there was only one way.
We'll do it together.
I can't.
Climb!
To survive on his ship.
I will challenge them, and they will come together.
Become a team.
Where we go one, we go all.
Because where he was taking them
What are they doing?
Claiming their place in the world.
could not be measured in miles. They thought they had survived the greatest challenge of their lives.
We had come through every kind of seas imaginable.
Except a white squall.
But it was only
White squalls are a phenomenon of the imagination.
the calm
What happened to my ship was not imagined.
before the storm. Largo Entertainment presents a film about loyalty,
Where we go one,
We go all.
discovery,
But we're a crew. That's what this whole thing is about.
and courage.
Don't you walk out of this, Skipper, you don't!
Captain, they're only boys.
We listened to you, we believed you,
they're much more than that, sir.
and we are still here!
Jeff Bridges in a Ridley Scott film. White Squall, based on a true story.
Welcome to In Pursuit of Truth. This is your host, Sir Patrick Mack. Q is hitting hard like a white squall out of nowhere. So many Q posts, I am going to skip the reading because I got to cut down on some of the upload time. Some of the length of these videos get so long. So I'm sorry, I am not going to be reading through these posts. We're going to get straight to the analysis. So, are you ready? Tuck your shirt in. All right, let's go. 10 minutes after the hour of 11, Q says only the beginning, power to the people, and then leaves us this link right here to Time. The 25 most influential people on the internet. How about that? So it starts off with this boy band here, BTS. They look masculine. And goes through a whole bunch of these cats right here. Charlotte and David Wilner. I have no idea who they are. Naomi Watanabe. President Trump, how about that? He made it. He's pretty influential. These guys, Sia Cooper, it's only kind of showing me how much I don't really know about the internet. Kanye West, I've heard of him. Roland Szabo, never heard of him. Iman Al-Nafjan, never heard of that guy either. Some very, very influential people that I've never heard of. But looky, if you get down here far enough, you're gonna see Q. It's a nice picture of you, Q. It captures your side. Last October, an anonymous user known simply as Q started posting cryptic messages on the controversial message board 4chan. The common theme being that President Trump is a secret genius and his opponents, namely Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama, are evil. Q reportedly claimed to be getting this information directly from the government, thanks to top secret Q-type security clearance. There has been little, if any, hard evidence to support Q's musings. But over time, thousands of people started to believe them, or at least to acknowledge they might be real, and they became the foundation of a wide-ranging conspiracy theory known as QAnon. That has been covered by the New York Times and New York Magazine. Yeah, they did a bang-up job, among others, and discussed in more than 130,000 videos on YouTube. One of its most prominent followers, Roseanne Barr, who tweeted several references to QAnon before being fired from her hit TV show in May, Melissa Chan. Wow, so they've already got us pegged as a bunch of conspiracy theorists like we already knew, but hey, we're making the list. We're pretty influential. Good job, Q. Good looking picture. You're looking handsome. I think you get the idea. Q is moving up in the mainstream. We're big, like Matt Drudge and Tony Liu and Lindsay Schuyler. I don't know any of these people. Sean King, doesn't he play football? I have no idea. All right. So we're influential is what I'm trying to say. We're influential like these fellas. Next post, 17 minutes after the hour of 11, responding to an Anon who says this hearing is incredibly painful to sit through and extremely frustrating. Nothing about this hearing will change the minds of those still asleep. When will something be revealed to wake up more sleepers? Q says focus on the House floor vote now. Q. And as you can see, at the moment I'm making this video, we are watching this right now, and it is completely asinine. Rosenstein's just sitting there saying, well, I can't really talk about that. We did everything right, but I can't tell you what's going on because it's classified, smashified. So everything is classified. Rod Rowe can't talk about anything. It looks to me like they're going to probably end up holding him contempt if it keeps going this way. Now, according to Fox, they voted and it was approved 226 to 183. The resolution is not enforceable, but sends a strong message to Justice Department officials. Okay, well, I just want to know what is enforceable. Republican lawmakers have threatened to hold top officials in contempt or even impeach them if the documents are turned over. So I can't help but think the way this is going, people are going to get impeached and held in contempt, but I think they are going to do their damnedest to make sure that these materials don't get turned over. At least that's the way it is looking at the moment. We get this tweet from Michael Cohen. My family and I are owed an apology after 2 years, 15 hours of testimony before House and Senate under oath and producing more than 1,000 documents. Dossier misreports 15 allegations about me. My entire statement must be quoted. I had nothing to do with Russian collusion or meddling. Wow. So there you go. Michael Cohen, he wants an apology. I'm not really sure if you're going to get that from Rod Rowe, bro. We will see. Next post. Why are they trying to normalize this? And then we get this New York Post link. What is coming? Do they really believe this will ever be swallowed? Will the progressive left defend and support these actions once those guilty are brought to light? These people are sick. They do not love this country. Q. And that link takes you to the New York Post. Facebook survey asks users if they condone pedophilia. Facebook is under fire for publishing a stomach-churning survey that asks users whether pedophiles should be allowed to solicit sexual pictures from underage girls. The cringe-worthy poll surfaced at the top of Facebook's homepage for an unspecified number of users this past weekend, according to a report. In thinking about an ideal world where you could set Facebook's policies, how would you handle the following? A private message in which an adult man asks a 14-year-old girl for sexual pictures. One question in the survey reads, the disgusting multiple choice poll gave users the option to condone the sick behavior, allowing them to vote that the content should be allowed on Facebook, and I would not mind seeing it. Another possible nausea-inducing response was that the content should be allowed on Facebook, but I don't want to see it. The twisted survey was spotted by an editor at The Guardian who published screenshots of it on Twitter. And that is it right there. The content should be allowed on Facebook and I would not mind seeing it. This content should be allowed on Facebook, but I don't want to see it. This content should be allowed on Facebook and no one should be able to see it. Yikes. So here are the screenshots, and this is from Jonathan Haynes' Twitter. Very, very disturbing, creepy stuff off the New York Post. And of course, Q says, do they really believe this will ever be swallowed? Well, I suppose there's going to be some idiots that are going to love this. Obviously, there's enough pedos out there that are okay with all this stuff. Will the progressive left defend and support these actions once those guilty are brought to light? You know, I'm starting to wonder. I think if you asked me a couple years ago, I would have said, no, I don't think they would have gone that far. But I'll tell you what, I'm not so sure these days. The progressive left is anything but progressive. And there's going to be a group of people that are going to try and defend this. But obviously, this is sick behavior. And I think we need to nip this stuff in the bud right now. But clearly, seems like to me what is coming is a bunch of pedophilia-related arrests. A bunch of people who are probably very influential, much like the Harvey Weinstein case. It's going to be big names, and they're going to come out. And if they don't get out in front of this and kind of make it seem like, well, this is just a sexual preference, blah, 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 we know exactly what's going to happen. And these people are not going to be able to walk the street. These people are sick. They do not love this country. Q. Let's move on. Next post, 24 minutes after the hour of 11, this Anon takes us to this Hill article. Already in notables, Q. House passes measure demanding DOJ documents in a 226 to 183 vote. Lawmakers approved the messaging measure, which calls on the DOJ to turn over all the documents House Republicans have requested related to the FBI's handling of investigations during the 2016 presidential election. All right, so we talked about this already. They voted 226 to 183. Q says, who brought the bill to the floor? Well, that would have been Meadows and No Jacket Jordan. And Q says, read between the lines. So I'm not exactly sure exactly what we're looking for here, but I want to turn you on to, I'm following Tracy Beans here on Twitter, and she is covering a discussion between Representative King and Rod Rosenstein. And Rod Rosenstein here says, what I regret you aren't seeing is that we are in touch with Coates. And King says, but if POTUS declassified, would you abide? Rosenstein says, yes, but we would have to talk about what info is released. King says, the only way that this may happen is for POTUS to declassify it all. Now, I think that's very telling right there. That seems to me about the only way we're going to get something done is having POTUS actually declassify everything. Representative Mark Meadows has this to say: this resolution with Jim Jordan just passed the House floor. Outstanding news. Many thanks to my colleagues for their support. This is a loud and clear message from Congress. It's time for the DOJ to be forthcoming and tell the truth to the American public. Okay, now anybody could say forthcoming, but I'm just wondering if that has any reference to Q's Q&A, saying that the Q&A would be forthcoming. But that's what Mark Meadows has to say about this. Now, perhaps the most fiery of these exchanges came between Rod Rosenstein and Jim Jordan, as well as Trey Gowdy, and let me play you a couple clips from them.
Record saying you haven't complied with requests from a separate and equal branch of government, that you haven't complied with subpoenas, and you got 7 days to get your act together. I think that's what's going to happen in a few. And that's not Jim Jordan. I think that's the House. I think that's a majority of the House of Representatives. In just a few minutes, I think that's going to happen. And I want to know why you won't give us what we've asked for.
Sir, I certainly hope that your colleagues are not under that impression. That is not accurate, sir. And
it is accurate. We have caught you hiding
Mr.
information,
Chairman, can we allow the witness to
Rosenstein.
answer? Mr. Chairman, point of order. We can go to Mr. Jordan's press conference and listen to him, but we came here to hear from the witnesses.
The time belongs to the gentleman.
Mr. Rosenstein,
Can we allow him to answer?
we have caught you hiding information.
We can allow him to answer.
He will be permitted to
answer
answer
that,
when
Mr.
Mr. Jordan.
Why do we have them here
We'll allow
if
him
they're not
additional
allowed
to
time
answer?
to answer.
Why are they not allowed to answer?
The gentleman's out of order. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Mr. Rose, let me make this one point, then I'll let
Yes,
you
Mr.
answer.
Jordan, I'd like to
let
answer
me make
your
this one point
accusation, sir.
where we've
Can I
caught you
answer your
hiding
accusation,
information, then you
sir?
can answer. Why did you hide the fact that Peter Strzok and Judge Contreras were friends? Why did you redact that in the documents you gave to us? Judge Contreras is kind of important. FISA court judge, more importantly, just as importantly, the judge that heard Mike Flynn's case. Why'd you try to hide that from us?
Mr. Jordan, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to respond. I've heard you make those sort of allegations publicly on TV.
I got
And if you
it
let
right
me
here.
respond, sir.
Mr. Chairman, he should be given
Right
the
here.
opportunity
Now, Mr.
to
Jordan,
answer.
It's redacted.
I am the Deputy Attorney General of the United States. Okay? I'm not the person doing the redacting. I'm responsible for responding to your concerns as I have. I have a team with me, sir. It's just a fraction of the team that's doing this work, and whenever you brought issues to my attention, I have taken appropriate steps to remedy them. So your statement that I'm personally keeping information from you, trying to conceal information
You're
from
the
the
boss,
American
Mr.
people, is not
Rosenstein.
true. That's correct. And my job is to make sure that we respond to your concerns. We have, sir. Now, I've appointed Mr. Lausch, who is managing that production, and my understanding is it's actually going very well, sir. So I appreciate your concerns.
Again, I think the House of Representatives is going to say otherwise.
But your use of this to attack me personally
Why did you
is
it's not
deeply wrong.
personal.
Point of order,
Chairman.
Mr. Chairman. May the witness be permitted to
not-
answer the
it's
question?
not personal.
The gentleman will suspend. The witness is going to have an opportunity to say whatever he wants at the end of Mr. Jordan's 5 minutes. Until the
It is
end
not
of those
personal.
5 minutes, they're his time.
I appreciate your service. It's not personal. We just want the information. Why did you tell Peter Strzok not to answer our questions yesterday? But I'd also appreciate if the House of Representatives could get the information. We have repeatedly, Mr. Gowdy talked about how long this investigation is going on, how long there's been a special counsel. We started asking for information in July of last year, and some of that is still has not been given to the Congress. Still has been given to this committee, the committee charged with defending the Judiciary Committee. So I appreciate what you do. I just want the information, and we're so frustrated that there is now a resolution on the floor of the House. In just a few minutes, that will be voted on.
Yeah,
Time of the
Mr.
gentleman
Jordan,
has expired. Mr. Rosenstein will be allowed to respond.
I don't have any control over what resolutions you vote on, sir, and
I
you
know
should
you
feel free
don't.
to do that.
The
but
gentleman will suspend it.
if
The
you're
time now is the
interested
Attorney
in-
General's.
if you're interested in the truth, Mr. Jordan, the truth is we have a team of folks, they're Trump appointees and career folks, and they're doing their best to produce these documents. Director Wray explained to you the process. He's got hundreds of people working around the clock trying to satisfy these requests. So whether you vote or not is not going to affect it. You're going to get everything that's relevant that we can find and produce to you. I support this report, sir. I'm not trying to hide anything from you.
So I'm going to say this to you, Mr. Ray, Mr. Rosenstein. I realize that neither one of you were there when this happened, but you're both there now. Russia attacked this country. They should be the target, but Russia isn't being hurt by this investigation right now. We are. This country is being hurt by it. We've seen the bias. We need to see the evidence. If you have evidence of wrongdoing by any member of the Trump campaign, present it to the damn grand jury. If you have evidence that this president acted inappropriately, present it to the American people. There's an old saying that justice delayed is justice denied. I think right now all of us are being denied. Whatever you got, finish it the hell up, because this country is being torn apart.
Well, I think we can all echo Trey Gowdy's sentiment. Hurry the hell up, put up or shut up. And it looks like it's just resolution after resolution. Now we have this resolution 970. This is a more recent tweet from Mark Meadows. A resolution from myself and Jim Jordan to formally compel the DOJ to turn over. Okay, so we got another 7 days. So this stuff is dragging out more and more. Look, the only way I can really see this playing out is if POTUS just steps in and declassifies it all. That is the only way someone is going to step up and slap some bacon on that Whopper with cheese and get it delivered to the people. So let's hope that that's what happens. And I think that it's time for us to start pushing it even harder as getting this out to social media, that we want to see this whole thing. Enough's enough. Done with the runaround. Rod Rowe, you got to go, bro. Let's move on. 33 minutes after the hour of 11, Q says, we remember you, Mr. VIP, and it takes you to this Twitter link right here to the real Rob L. I was right in front, just a little left of stage. At one point in the rally, Trump pointed right at me and acknowledged my Q shirt again. To me, this was bigger than the first time. Confirmation. And let's take a look at that video real quick. Awesome. So real Rob L getting called out for his Q shirt by President Trump himself. Very cool moment for you, Rob L. Congratulations to you. And of course, people are getting excited. They're wearing their Q shirts at the rally, and more President Trump is confirming, calling those people out. It must feel good for President Trump, too, to see so many supporters showing up for him, considering everything that he has been through. So hang in there, President Trump. We are doing our best. Where we go one, we go all. And Q says, where did the storm derive from? Some things leave lasting impressions. Listen carefully. Now, this is going to take you to the trailer of White Squall, which I played for you once. We're going to listen to it again. But I want to take you over here. This is the Honey Fitz. This was JFK's boat. And as you can see on the bell, where we go one, we go all. This was a phrase that he was fond of as well, too. And for those of you who have been following the Q phenomenon, we see over and over again JFK references, of course, because so much of what this Great Awakening is going to reveal started back with the assassination of JFK. Now, considering the overwhelming number of Q posts we've got, you could make a whole video on this, and I would love to have the time to do so. But for those of you who do not understand, maybe you can look a little bit into this, or some of you can provide a little bit of insight in the comments below. But this is kind of where it all started. Now, we're going to watch this video, and I want you to think about the idea of Q as they recruit people and try to turn people on to this Great Awakening movement. And with that in mind, let's listen to that trailer one more time.
The ship beneath you is not a toy. Sailing's not a game.
So why the hell do it?
Builds character, Mr. Preston, of which you are in desperately short supply.
They came from different places.
And this Ocean Academy isn't recognized as accredited.
It'll be a good thing, Dad.
They sailed for different reasons.
I don't want to be what I was when I left.
There you go.
Anonymous.
But there was only one way.
We'll do it together.
I can't.
Climb!
To survive on his ship.
I will challenge them and they will come together.
Become a team.
Where we go one, we go all.
Because where he was taking them
What are they doing?
Claiming their place in the world.
could not be measured in miles. They thought they had survived the greatest challenge of their lives.
We had come through every kind of seas imaginable.
Except a white squall.
But it was only
White squalls are a phenomenon of the imagination.
the calm
What happened to my ship was not imagined.
before the storm. Largo Entertainment presents a film about loyalty,
Where we go one,
We go all.
discovery,
But we're a crew. That's what this whole thing is about.
and courage.
Don't you walk out of this, Skipper, you don't!
Captain, they're only boys.
We listened to you, we believed you!
they're much more than that, sir.
And we are still here!
Jeff Bridges in a Ridley Scott film, White Squall, based on a true story.
So pretty motivating stuff, and it kind of gives you a new perspective, not only on the movie, but the QAnon movement. And of course, there's lots of little things that we can kind of parse and pick out of that video that we could probably find, but I highlighted just a few of them. When did POTUS make the statement? It was back on the 5th of October, 2017. And then, of course, he said it in a meeting, and then, of course, he said it in another photo opportunity where he said, you know what this means, right? This could be the calm before the storm. And, of course, everybody was asking him about that, and that was on the 6th. When did we arrive to start the awakening? Well, Q first posted on October 28th when he mentioned about Hillary Clinton being arrested. You have more than you know, fireworks. So it looks like we're going to probably be uncovering a lot more pieces of the puzzle just by looking back at old Q posts. I have a feeling that always tends to give us more perspective as the time goes on. Let's move on. Next post, 52 minutes after the hour 11. We get this right here. Q says, "Are you ready?" And we got a couple of bros. These were the guys that were in the picture from the other night. And that looks like a couple of dudes I would go barbecue with. That's what I'm saying. All right. They look pumped. They look ready to support some Trump. They look ready to MAGA. They're all ready to go. And now they're on the front page of the news, and they're all over the Q post. So good on you, fellas. If you guys are watching the video, good on you. And Q says, "Are you ready, Q?" Well, folks, I don't know about you, but I was born ready for this stuff. I'm ready to go. I got my clean shirt on, and I combed my hair. So I'm ready to go. How about you? Let's move on. 25 minutes after the hour of 1, Q says, "Trying to normalize," and gives us this Fox link. Who just joined the board of Netflix? Who pushed what is coming? Q. And this Fox link takes you to this here. Netflix under fire for film critics say contains child pornography. Netflix has come under fire for a movie streamed on their site that some viewers say contains a scene that is child pornography. The opening scene of the Argentinian film Desire depicts 2 young girls under the age of 10 playing around with pillows. The scene takes a sexual turn involving one of the girls. The news site PJ Media said it reported the film to the FBI and Department of Justice for child pornography. The FBI told Fox News, per DOJ policy, the FBI neither confirms nor denies the existence of an investigation. The film remains on Netflix's site, and a rep for the streaming service did not return Fox News' request for comment. It was not immediately clear what Netflix's vetting policy is for films. Angry viewers took to Twitter to share their disgust and are calling on Netflix to remove the film and start an investigation. And then you can see some of these tweets here from Vicious St. Bernard. Netflix, why are you offering kiddie porn? Please investigate. Tammy Ann says, watch the first few minutes of the movie Desire from Netflix. Promotion of pedophilia, absolutely disgusting. Parents should be arrested for this scene alone. Nicole says, you need to remove the film Desire from your service immediately. You are making available child porn by leaving this film up. I am disgusted and will be canceling my service if this is not fixed ASAP. What is wrong with you? Well, I'll leave you here and you can read some more of these, but obviously people are very, very angry. Look, there's nothing cool about pedophilia. It's one of the biggest reasons why I started this channel, because I was done with seeing it. I was done watching the culture gravitate this way, and you can see over the course of not just this video, but if you've been following this movement for a while, or if you've just been paying attention to Hollywood in general, they are trying to make this acceptable. They're trying to kind of blur the lines of morality so that when all these crimes come out, it's going to seem like it was just another sexual preference. And then, of course, they'll do the projection thing saying that we're some sort of pedophobe or something like that. I wouldn't be surprised if pedophobe is the next term that we use. And Q is asking us who just joined the board of Netflix. Susan Rice. This is off the Examiner. Susan Rice to join Netflix board of directors. This was off of from March 28, 2018. Susan Rice, former U.S. ambassador to the United Nations and national security advisor under former President Barack Obama, was appointed to join Netflix's board of directors. I am thrilled to be joining the board of directors of Netflix, a cutting-edge company whose leadership, high-quality productions, and unique culture I deeply admire, Rice said in a statement obtained by The Hill. Rice was also commended by Netflix CEO Reed Hastings on Wednesday. We're delighted to welcome Ambassador Rice to the Netflix board, Hastings said in a statement on Wednesday. For decades, she has tackled difficult, complex global issues with intelligence, integrity, and insight, and we look forward to benefiting from her experience and wisdom. And, of course, this comes on the heels of the Obamas signing their deal. So now we've got Susan Rice, former U.S. ambassador, and then, of course, we have a former president and first quote-unquote lady. They're all joining Netflix, which looks like they're getting into the kiddie porn business. That doesn't seem like the kind of business I would want to be related to. And of course, Susan Rice, former U.S. ambassador to the United Nations. And people wonder why we're trying to get out of the United Nations. Imagine that. Well, the pedos are out in full force. Q says, what is coming? I would assume there is going to be some pedophile convictions coming forward, and that's why they're trying to normalize all this so that we'll think it's just another sexual preference. And of course, if you say anything, you're clearly a pedophobe. Time to get the noose. Let's move on. 28 minutes after the hour of 1, and Anon says, sick people, Q. I wish I could get these bastards with you. Go get them. Q says, we are pain. And then we've got a whole series of exclamation points. Not exactly sure if there is something in the number of points there. Sorry for the sheer amount of Q. I'm not going to go dabbling into that too much because I don't want to get lost in the weeds, but there could be something to this. So if you've got something, please go ahead and share it below. But Q is bringing the pain. And of course, when we think about pain, we think about the Punisher. Next post, 29 minutes after the hour of 4, Q gives us this Breitbart link, which takes us here. Report: Facebook investors consider coup of CEO Mark Zuckerberg. According to a recent report, some Facebook investors are becoming tired of CEO Mark Zuckerberg's style of running the company and may be considering a coup. Just a few months ago, Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg testified before Congress about the Cambridge Analytica data scandal. Shortly before this, during a call with members of the media, including Breitbart News, one reporter asked Zuckerberg whether or not there had been a discussion amongst board members about replacing Zuckerberg as chairman of the company. Zuckerberg paused shortly and gave a short-clipped answer, "Not that I'm aware of." According to a recent report from Business Insider, that discussion amongst board members may have taken place. Scott Stringer, New York City's comptroller, who is responsible for overseeing the investment of approximately $895 million worth of Facebook shares through city pension funds, recently told Business Insider, "We have concerns about the structure of the board that the company doesn't seem ready to address, which can lead to risks. Reputational, regulatory, and otherwise. Doherty believes that Facebook's current situation is one of the past that regularly has failed. The idea that there should be an autocrat in charge of a gigantic public company, which has billions of dollars of shareholder money invested in it, is an anachronism." Doherty said, "It harks back to the 19th century when you had these robber barons who were autocrats and dictators." Business Insider reports that through interviews with multiple investors, the two issues that consistently were brought up by investors were they want Zuckerberg to step down as chairman and an independent executive to be hired in his place. Shareholders also want Facebook's dual-class share structure to be abolished because they believe it concentrates too much power into the hands of Zuckerberg and his top team. So that's pretty interesting right there. You've got all these guys with a lot of money, and whether we like these guys or not, they don't get to have all that money without having done some smart things to get it. And of course, let's face it, not every rich guy is an evil, satanic creep, although it seems lately like most of them are. But not everybody is. And they're starting to see this, that Zuckerberg's taken a lot of power. And we watched him when he was talking about the Cambridge Analytica data scandal. He had no plans to change anything. He was going to keep doing the same thing that he's always done because he knows that people aren't paying attention. And he knows that Facebook is just going to eventually add a new feature and people will forget all about it. Now, let me take you down to the bottom here. Michael Connor discussed the arrogance of Silicon Valley tech companies, saying people think companies like Facebook are bulletproof, and they're not. You had companies like AOL and Yahoo come and go. You've had people like Travis Kalanick, who was the co-founder and CEO of Uber, who has come and gone. These things can self-destruct. And he's right. These Silicon Valley guys, they think they're top notch. They think they've really, really earned their place in the world. And of course, they're making billions of dollars. And we all know that this guy really doesn't know a damn thing about Facebook, right? And he's taking all our information, sharing it with everybody. And I'm picturing the meeting kind of looking like this. Hey, Mark, come on in, sit down, have a seat. Listen, I'm a big fan. We loved it when you kind of took over the whole MySpace thing and added the little like button. We really like it. The share button, it was awesome. Love it. I'm able to talk to my aunt in Cleveland. But we got to talk. We got this survey the other day asking if I liked kitty porn. Look, Mark, I'm just going to come right out with it. What the hell? What the hell are you doing with the company? And of course, Mark Zuckerberg, deep state puppet, isn't going to change anything because he knows the narrative that has to get pushed, the very narrative that we've talked about. And he's just part of that whole machine, isn't he? So it looks like some of these guys are getting a little bit nervous, saying they're not really liking the way he's handling things. And it could very well be, I don't know if it's going to be the fall of Facebook, could very well be the breakup. It says here, all of the investors interviewed assured Business Insider that they truly want what's best for the company. And for many of them, that means removing Zuckerberg as CEO. So that very well could be a possibility coming in the near future. But just another humanitarian, just doing their best to make sure that everybody's staying inclusive. Let's move on. Next post, 442, we get this from WikiLeaks. Democratic senators who demanded today that Julian Assange's asylum be revoked in violation of international law. Remember them. And we've got Robert Menendez, Richard Blumenthal, Michael Bennett, Joe Manchin, Dianne Feinstein, Mark Warner, Jean Shaheen, Christopher Coons, Edward J. Markey, and of course, Richard Don't Be Such a Dick Durbin. And they're calling for Julian Assange's asylum to be revoked. Interesting timing. The Anon says, okay. Q says, server or Julian Assange equals truth exposed Seth Rich. And if you watched my video yesterday, you saw the Q post where Q was basically talking to WikiLeaks and the Deep State, but particularly the Deep State, saying that either way, it doesn't matter because you may have the site, but we have got basically the source, which is the server and Julian Assange. And that's going to equal the truth exposed about Seth Rich. That June ETA isn't going to happen, of course, but it looks like we have got the wheels in motion because the truth is going to come out about this server. And now that they're realizing they're going to have to cough something up, the only next step would be to shut Julian Assange up. Because if they can't get the information, then they have to get Julian Assange themselves. And that was the call out that Q made. Dems are in crisis. Yeah, I'd say that's a pretty big crisis. I would imagine Julian Assange is not for the having. A wand is bigger than you can imagine. Of course it is. Packy Intel guys just wreaking havoc on our servers, sharing with whomever. And we don't know how big it is because we haven't been able to see it. But I'm sure it's massive. It was probably global. Putin Uranium One will come out post-summit. They will try to apply artificial MSM heat to cancel. Well, we know that Putin's got the goods on Uranium One. He knows how it got everywhere. He knows where it went through. And I'm imagining that the summit is going to be a bunch of outward narrative preparation as they meet, basically just setting the stage and showing the world that they're not the enemies that people would like to kind of portray them to be. But I don't imagine, it sounds like we're not going to get all the Uranium One deal right off the bat. Looks like it's going to be a slow leak from there. Now they will try to apply artificial MSM heat to cancel. I picture it like this. Someone's going to do a quote unquote, hard hitting documentary and kind of get out in front of it. Oh, what was the Clinton Foundation doing? What about Rosatom and blah, blah, blah. And it's going to be on Discovery Channel. And it's going to really, really turn up the heat if you know what I mean. And then it's going to leave you high and dry, okay? Just like DJ Rod Rose remix, okay? Nobody wants to hear that. It's just going to be a bunch of fluff. They're going to do a bunch of fluff pieces to pretend that they're hitting hard, but then they're going to leave you soft. These people are corrupt beyond belief. America for sale, sold out, Q. So it looks to me like Putin is going to be a big, big part in all of this. It may not happen during the summit, could happen in the days after, weeks after, who knows? But this is all going to play out very, very soon. And I would imagine we're going to have to start looking for this MSM push. They're going to start kind of trying to rewind a little bit and pretend to get out in front of it by saying that they were the ones that broke the story. But it just really wasn't as hard hitting as they'd like you to think it is. We all know better. Let's move on. Next post, 51 minutes after the hour of 4. An Anon post this from Wired sources. Reuters reporter blames President Trump for shooting on Maryland newspaper office despite no evidence linking him to the shooting. And this is Rob Cox, a Reuters reporter. This is what happens when real Donald Trump calls journalists the enemy of the people. Blood is on your hands, Mr. President. Save your thoughts and prayers for your empty soul. And they are talking about this Reuters article here. Gunman angry at Maryland newspaper kills 5 in targeted attack. A man who had a long-running feud with an Annapolis newspaper blasted his way through his newsroom with a shotgun on Thursday, killing at least 5 people in one of the deadliest attacks recorded on a U.S. media outlet, authorities said. The suspect fired through a glass door looking for victims and then sprayed the newsroom of the Capital Gazette newspaper group in Annapolis with gunfire, police and a witness said. Acting Police Chief of the Anne Arundel County Police Department, William Crampf, told a news conference that Capital Gazette Assistant Editor Rob Hyson, 59, was among the victims. Wendy Winters, 65, Rebecca Smith, 34, Gerald Fishman, 61, and John McNamara were also killed, he said. Smith was a sales assistant, and the others were journalists. The suspect is Jarrod Ramos, 38, of Laurel. The Capital Gazette and Baltimore Sun reported, citing law enforcement. In 2012, Ramos brought a defamation lawsuit against Eric Hartley, formerly a staff writer and columnist with The Capital, and Thomas Marquardt, then editor and publisher of The Capital, according to a court filing. In 2015, Maryland's second highest court upheld a ruling in favor of The Capital Gazette and a former reporter who were accused by Ramos of defamation. All right, according to a legal document, the article contended that Ramos had harassed a woman on Facebook and that he had pleaded guilty to criminal harassment. The court agreed that the contents of the article were accurate and based on public records the document showed. Ramos said on Twitter that he had set up an account to defend himself and wrote in his bio that he was suing people in Anne Arundel County and making corpses of corrupt careers and corporate entities. And it goes on to say his intent was definitely to cause harm. Yeah, you don't say a shotgun will do that. Look, another knucklehead. Who knows how he got triggered? Definitely butthurt about something. I don't want to make him any more famous than he is. And we've got this reporter from Reuters, and they reported the story, and he comes out and blames President Trump for this. Now, of course, this is a terrible thing. I don't know if it's connected. We never really do. Maybe this guy really was disgruntled and crazy. I find it's so coincidental, isn't it? So coincidental. And I'm sure that we're going to find out that this guy was on some sort of meds, hopped up on some sort of poppies, right? And Rob Cox is here blaming the president. Really, really helping the matter. The voice of reason through these troubling times, Rob Cox. Well, Rob Cox says, oh, I'm sorry for my comments, which I quickly deleted and he says. And I can't hear it anymore because Rob Cox, it just sounds like you're just talking a bunch of smack. It sounds to me like you're sorry that you got backlash. That's what I'm guessing. So you can go to Rob Cox's Twitter and see for yourself. I don't want to give him any more attention either. But you see the point. And the Anon says effing hell. Q says, low IQ, Maxine should be blamed. They know exactly what they're doing. And of course, we are talking about the mannequin with a wig, Maxine, walking around. And she's telling everybody to harass everybody, because that's the classy, inclusive Democratic Party that we seem to come to terms with lately. And Q is saying that Maxine is starting this whole thing. Well, look, it's a lot of people. You can't just blame Maxine, although Maxine can shoulder a lot of the blame. She's one of their leaders, right? But she's been the one trying to kind of, rile everybody up with her big 15 people revolution, street corner revolutions, where she gets on the soapbox and they frame it to make it look like there's 100 people there when there's really about 30 paid Soros knuckleheads, probably the same guys that go around and shooting these places up. Anyway, I'm getting off topic, but you see the point. irresponsible reporting. And that is the reason why channels like myself and many others that you guys have come to like are popping up with real news, because at least we're setting out in earnest and not blaming our leaders for every little thing that's going on. And Q is saying that, they know exactly what they're doing. They know how this is handled. This guy will say he's sorry and people will forget it by next week. Let's move on. 57 minutes after the hour of 4, we get this little graphic here. And it takes us back to an April 9th Q post, 1195. And this was during for those of you who might be newer to Q, if you go back to this post 1195 you'll find it on qanon.pub, you'll see that we were in the midst of a bit of a question and answer session at the time. And an Anon had asked, well, when will we find out about Seth Rich and Las Vegas? And Q had responded, Seth Rich connected to the DNC, MS-13, who would have been the ones that did the hit, Julian Assange. Why did the Dems push legal rep on family? June ETA. And of course, we know that that's exactly what they did. They wanted to shut the family up by pretending to represent them. And Q was giving us a June ETA, which looks like it is a little bit late, but Q also said that it already kind of had started. And we saw this article from back on the 25th, and we covered this a couple videos ago, how Comey intervened to kill WikiLeaks immunity deal. And as you can see here, that they had offered him, drafted him a limited immunity deal, and of course Comey put the skibosh on all that. He wasn't going to have it. Why? Because it was going to show that Comey was complicit in all this, and he can't have that. WikiLeaks is Comey's worst nightmare, because that's going to lead to the Seth Rich connection. Of course, once we get Seth Rich, the DNC, we're going to get Debbie Wasserman Schultz, and it's just going to be a domino effect after that. This Anon says, free Julian Assange. Q says, coincidence? JA in the news a lot lately. Out of nowhere. Crisis mode. And of course, Q's just referring right back here to this crisis mode that they're in. The Dems are in crisis mode. Yeah, that's why they're going after Julian Assange. What else can they do? They try to kill the immunity deal. They're trying to leave him with no place to go. So I can't help but think that, well, let's hope that Julian Assange is somewhere safe. But my guess from Q's previous posts, they already have that taken care of. And it looks like the deep state's going to do what they can to either prevent Julian Assange from eventually getting his piece said. And I think we all know what that's going to lead to. It's going to lead to the DNC, MS-13, and Seth Rich. Let's move on. Next post, 19 minutes after the hour of 5. Law enforcement should interview the therapist. Each shooter has one coincidentally. Targets, relocation within 30 days of each shooting, new name, FBI doesn't know this, spooks are hard to find, dream to reality Q. So there might be some specifics that I'm missing here, but look, every time we get a school shooting, it's always kind of that same thing. It's that lone gunman, right? That crazy fringe guy. Now, the one we just had, this Ramos guy, he was a little bit older, but a lot of times they're younger kids, especially in these schools. They go shooting up these schools. And let's face it, they're either longtime MK Ultra victims that we've never heard of, probably don't have any social security numbers or whatnot. Who knows what they've endured in their lives? We never hear of them. Sounds like Q is implying that they just get relocated within 30 days of the shooting. They probably use them again with a new name. FBI completely knows about it. Spooks are hard to find? No, not when you got it all in the family. Look, some of these kids are just, if you've been watching my videos for a while, we talked about this group of kids they were calling incels, right? These kids that sit home at their home and they're, playing Call of Duty and they're stuffing their craw full of Hot Pockets, and they're all butthurt because they can't find any Chads or Stacys to go to the prom with them. So they decided to go act out, right? But they got themselves a nice iPhone and an AK-47, they're good to go. And these people become really, really susceptible to this kind of programming. And of course, everybody's hot full of opioids, right? So it becomes really, really easy for the deep state to just kind of set these people off. And I know it sounds absolutely crazy if this is kind of new to your way of thinking. But keep in mind, if you remember the shooter that from back some months ago that fired a gun out in front of the White House, remember, they didn't report that he shot at anybody. He was shooting at his phone. What was going on that phone that was making him want to shoot that thing? What would make a child want to do that? I shouldn't say child, maybe just a young person, right? These people are susceptible. They're hopped up on drugs. Law enforcement should interview the therapist. Yeah, sounds like they've all got one. Each shooter has one, coincidentally. Targets, relocation within 30 days. They just rehash this whole thing. And it's like a dream. But I guess it looks like more and more, this is becoming our reality. Let's move on. Next post. We get this picture here, Masonic symbol. Why are Freemasons on the scene of most shooting locations? Openly giving interviews or in background shots. Symbolism will be their downfall. Well, I would imagine for a few reasons. And look, we could go way into the whole Masonic aspect of all this stuff. It's important for you to understand. If you do not, I think a good majority of you guys already do. There is a plethora of good information about the Masons all over YouTube, really all over the internet. So you don't need me to explain it. I'm not an expert on it anyway, but let's face it, this is woven into the fabric of our society, the world society, not just American society, everywhere. And every time we see these events, like we're going to see in this next post here, 532, this Yig tweets this, figures there was a fire drill too, just 5 minutes before shooting. I wonder what's on that guy's necklace. And this is a Santa Fe shooting from, looks like May 18th. And there you go. There's your Masonic symbol right there. And of course, he's the guy letting everybody know. So I would imagine that the other people who are connected to this see this on TV and go, yep, it's all part of the plan. They're all making their own little secretive ninja talk with their little codes and their rings and their foofy jewelry. This guy says, yep. And then we see this guy here from the San Bernardino shooting. There it is. Boom, right on his cap. All right. It's like the Simpsons Stonecutter episode. Who kills the children? We do. You can see they're all wrapped up in it. They're the ones that are going to squash everything. They're going to squelch it. As soon as they get on TV, they're going to say, yeah, it was crazy. He was a lone gunman and he was just so weird and then we couldn't figure it out. You know the point, right? And it's just another knucklehead gets recycled and sent off to another school next time they need a false flag. Q says everywhere. Next post, 4 minutes after the hour of 7. And Anon says, make Freemasonry great again. The clowns infiltrated it and have been abusing its hierarchy for far too long. Q says, most all-powerful organizations have sinister components. With power comes corruption. Like alphabet agencies, not all are bad apples. Should the bad spoil the bunch? Well, unfortunately, the bad sometimes does spoil the bunch, doesn't it? And we know that most our organizations are banks, our churches, our any kind of religious institutions, our leadership institutions, and now of course we're seeing our adoption agencies and our foundations, all these humanitarian aid organizations. All these organizations have sinister components, usually leading to a Rothschild or a Soros or the royal family, or hey, go ahead and plug your deep state knucklehead in wherever. You'll trace it back somewhere. And with that power comes corruption. And because that's how they keep their power. They use these little insurance files, right? You go to a party, you start making some coin with some of these crews. Next thing you know, you wake up and you got a picture of you next to some 12-year-old looking like some sort of creepy Gap ad. And next thing you know, you're corrupt too. Just like all our alphabet agencies, the FBI, the CIA, the DOJ, and of course, not all are bad apples. We're seeing that play out right now. But sometimes the bad apple does spoil the bunch, and we got to get rid of those bad apples. Let's move on. Next post, 7 minutes after the hour of 8, and Anon posts this from Jarrod Ramos's Twitter. New Google auto suggestion. Jarrod Ramos Hartley, my therapist, told me people don't search that. Counseling, much like small talk, BS. And the Anon says therapist confirmed. Q says coincidence. Everything stated has meaning. Find paper articles regarding Freemasons controlled. Okay, well, I haven't found anything regarding the Freemasons yet, and I hate making knuckleheads like this famous, but I want you to know, I don't believe this is Jarrod's picture. Jarrod looks a little bit different. He's got long hair, but he's got this picture of this guy with this weird logo on his head. And I want to show you some other tweets that he has. When Evil Tom assures my lawsuit was dismissed, but then he says he can't talk about it. There's a reason. He also said kept gas news was healthy. No meds and no jail. Miller, but my bullets are words. I see Evil Tom Merrill shotgun and raise you, and you sure deserve to be bothered. Then he posts this here. Mass shootings cannot happen anywhere. For example, 2000 Capitol Drive. No one left there to shoot. I'm glad that Analytis finally blocked me. It says she's worried about losing her seat, and I've helped it happen. Speaking of exploiting an opponent's words, did I ever mention BCM has a big effing mouth? All right, so this guy's reeks of class, right? And there's something clearly off that Q wants us to be able to kind of find about this guy. Next post, 25 minutes after the hour of 8, Q leaves us this link right here and says bottom graphic Q, and it takes you here. And this is more about this Jarrod Ramos. And it looks here like he's filed a complaint, and we have some different, it looks like a collection of things, emails, things like that. He clearly had a bone to pick with a few people, had some legal issues going on. Looks like he had some misconduct, misdemeanor. And we'll go into a little bit of this. But at the bottom corner, like Q says, or excuse me, bottom graphic, we find the Ramos family crest. Now, the Ramos family crest, I guess, can be traced back to this guy here, Petrus Ramos. And as you can see, he's holding a compass there. So there's some Masonic connection there. I don't exactly have it all at the moment. It's probably a pretty deep dive, or at least I'm kind of missing it. But clearly there is some MK Ultra mind control going on. Next post, 30 minutes after the hour of 8, we get this logo right here called Brand of Sacrifice. You have now been marked with the brand of sacrifice. The lives of those who bear the brand, from the last drop of blood to the last moment of your agonizing death, will feed life to the new child of darkness. And Q is confirming this strange logo. At first glance, it kind of reminded me of the Bluetooth logo. It's not the same thing, but yeah, definitely kind of creepy. And I found it over on here, Berserk Wiki. Brand of Sacrifice marks those for a sacrificial ceremony in which an apostle or god hand is created. The sacrifice, usually someone close and dear to the summoner, is then ritualistically murdered, with the deceased life force used to complete the summoner's transition into either an apostle or a member of the god hand. Sounds uplifting. Branded humans who are fortunate or unfortunate enough to survive reside in the interstice between the physical and astral worlds, forced to fend themselves against creatures of darkness and the nightly attacks by the restless souls of the dead who desire flesh. In response to these fell entities, the brand will bleed and cause pain. Around ordinary evil spirits or apostles, the blood will only trickle out, and the pain will be relatively minimal. Around a member of the God hand, the brand will shoot blood out in huge gushes, and the pain inflicted will be agonizing. If the evil is too great, it can supposedly kill the branded. So far, Void is the only individual who can administer a brand of sacrifice. I have no idea who Void is. Sorry. Seems really, really strange. I also thought that this little heart seemed really, really strange at the top of this article. But this is a creepy symbol, and it looks to me like this could have some sort of relation to Nexium and their branding. Maybe not just Nexium. Maybe Nexium is just the tip of the iceberg, but some sort of creepy brand. And as you can see, this guy Ramos, off of his Twitter, had some pictures of some people. Have no idea who they are, but he puts this brand on their head. So maybe he's wishing, maybe these people that were close to Ramos, whatever, maybe they were close, and now he wants to brand him in the skull. I don't know. Seems really, really creepy. And we'll move on to the next post here. 45 minutes after the hour of 8, and Anon says, were the shooters all branded with this mark? And Q says the key equals therapist. Weak minds, use of symbolism to push strength and belonging to something powerful. Controlled, duty. Find the link, common denominator, error made. Name can be found due to filing. Fake, background, office, other patients, relocation imminent, conspiracy risk, end for now. Haspel must find and terminate classified programs she knows. And of course, that's new director of the CIA, Gina Haspel. Sounds like Q wants her to terminate these classified programs. As far as some of the rest of the stuff, this is likely to be a deep dive or something that I just haven't been able to skim. Keep in mind, guys, I'm doing about 30 posts today. So this one's tough, but let me show you at least kind of what I found. Now, we got this letter here from the Maryland Department of Health and Mental Hygiene addressed to Mr. Ramos back in 2013, and it looks like he was complaining about this counselor The Board of Professional Counselors and Therapists wishes to acknowledge your concerns regarding a counselor in this state, Sandra O'Neill. The board has forwarded these matters for inquiry. So it looks like he might have had this counselor, Sandra O'Neill. That could be our link there. And it's signed by this Karen Walmsley, who I believe is some sort of private investigator. I'm not really sure, but that's what I was able to kind of come up with. Then we have also this letter here from the Anne Arundel County, Maryland Department of Health. And this is from Sandra O'Neill. Now, this Sandra O'Neill, I'm not exactly sure who she is, but she's some sort of counselor, and it looked like she had gotten some sort of grant to fight the opioid crisis with the Annapolis Safe Station. And that's what it looks like this might be regarding. Now, there were some of these faces that this Ramos had put on they put this logo, and I guess this logo is some sort of like anime logo or whatever. It's from Berserk or whatever. That's what the logo is, this sacrifice brand thing. But if you go look at this Eric Hartley, FRND, we find this weird page, and you can see the last poster here. It says the Maryland shooter Jarrod Ramos, aka Eric Hartley, hasn't tweeted since January 2016 until this tweet minutes before the shooting. And then if you check this other guy too, this Judge Moyland, same thing. Coalition of the Decent, the time of this tweet is just 3 minutes before the shooting. Spooky. And then you can see just more creepiness going on. So clearly there's some sort of link that we need to find with, I'm assuming, the counselors. And Q is saying the key equals therapist, weak minds. And a guy like this who looks like he was stalking some girl from the paper and then got, didn't like the court ruling, and so he decided to, make a big stink or anything like that. People like this, they get really, really susceptible. And so, of course, if they have a therapist, and if these therapists are tied to opioids and they're feeding them the opioids, these are going to be weak, programmable minds. Use of symbolism to push strength and belonging to something powerful. So maybe this guy got all hung up on this anime thing. Controlled, duty. He's going to feel a sense of duty, like he's got to do this for whatever greater good. Find the link, common denominator. Well, I'm not really sure, but it seems like this branding thing. Now, there's probably something specific that I can't get yet, and hopefully somebody will be able to grab on by the time this video is made. But Q is saying that there's an error made, so it sounds like we're not finding it quite yet. Name can be found due to filing. So I'm not sure if that was the lady that we're talking about, this counselor, or not. The background, there are some people that think also that it is this lady, Kathy Miller, the president at Oasis Mental Health, Annapolis, Maryland. And of course, that's again in Maryland. Now, these were some Anons that were putting this up on 8chan. And so I just wanted to share that. I'm not really sure about the connection there, but it looks like we've got another therapist from Maryland. Name can be found due to filing. So it's in there somewhere. Fake, background, office, other patients, relocation imminent, conspiracy risk, and for now. And like Q said, Gina Haspel needs to end these programs, because these programs are the damaging programs that are sending these school shooters out, basically training these kids to be soldiers, super soldiers, or basically just mind control slaves. And that has to end. So let me know if you guys find anything on that. But in my kind of surface diving, that was what I was able to at least get started on. Okay, guys, that's going to be it for video 1. I am going to make a part 2. I've still got quite a few more Q posts coming my way. They are coming in faster than we can even cover them. I want to be as timely as possible and still be able to dive a little bit. But of course, with the sheer number of the sheer volume of all these posts coming in, it's just been impossible to do a deep dive on each one of these. So that's what I got for you for now. Keep on the lookout for part 2. It'll be coming probably later at you today, but I want to at least give you this to chew on. And as always, if you like this video, please click like, share, and subscribe. Share. That is the best way you can help me. And I will get this new Q out to you as soon as possible. And until then, you can join me, if you're so inclined, over on the Twitter at IPOT1776. That's at IPOT1776. Or you can search In Pursuit of Truth on Gab. And until the next video, stay tuned.